Hello guys, welcome, or if you already seen my channel before, welcome back. I'm the Philadelphia Whovian, and for this video, well, we're going to be talking finally about my thoughts on Chris Chibnall as the head writer of Doctor Who. And now, when it comes to my journey about Chris Chibnall being Doctor Who, it's, again, a journey. I'm going to say things to you that you're going to agree with and not agree with, but say what you will about me is, I tell the truth. Always and forever, I'm just going to tell you the truth about what I really do feel about Chris Chibnall. Okay, now, some people are optimistic about Chris Chibnall. Some people have already kind of, held their hearts against Chris Chibnall. One because he cast a female as the Doctor, others because of his track record when it comes to Doctor Who. So first I'm going to talk about my history or my feelings towards previous episodes and about my attitude towards him now. So, first time I saw Chris Chibnall's story, not even going to talk about first time. I'm going to talk about his stories in sequence, from the first to the last that he's written so far. The first one was 42, the much maligned episode of 42 in series 3. And many people absolutely hate this story. I don't. I actually have a lot of fun watching that story. I think it's because I like the Doctor and Martha in it. I love how the Doctor treats Martha. He cares about her. He respects her welfare. They feel like even though they're separate, they're working together as a team, and even when they are separate, I love their caring consideration for each other. I love that the Doctor does not talk about does not bring up Rose and holds over Martha's head in this episode. I feel like he's beginning to see her as an equal and respect her in a great deal, and I see his caring consideration. And I see how much Martha can, when she's separate from the Doctor, she can work alone and work by herself and do everything in her power to be awesome by herself. I liked seeing that. Also, it was adrenaline pumping, it was action-packed, it was fun from start to finish for me. People hate this episode for one reason or another. One of the many, one argument I saw about people hating this story is because, it's very similar to the Planet of Evil. It's just a replica of the Planet of Evil. Guys, honestly, there are many new Who episodes that are replicas of classic Who. Rose is very similar to Spearhead from Space, but not as good. And then you have the Impossible Planet, Satan's Pit, very similar to The Daemons meets the Three Doctors. Then you have The End of the World, as well as New Earth. That's not creative. Literally, New Earth was an idea that was bouncing around classic Who for a long time. And in them both is Cassandra, who I've said before, time and time again, I feel like it's very much a knockoff of Syl from Vengeance on Varos. And then you have Dalek, which has similar features to the power of the Daleks. As well as you also have The Stolen Earth Journey's End, which takes and borrows heavily from the plotline of the Dalek invasion of Earth. And then you have Rise of Cybermen, Age of Steel, which has very similar qualities to Cybermen stories meets Inferno. It just does. It really does. And I'm sure there are other stories. Midnight. A lot of people disagree with me that Midnight is very similar to the Edge of Destruction, but if you actually look at it closely and you watch Edge of Destruction, then you watch Midnight, well, you'll see that there are a lot of similarities. I regard Midnight as being a reimagining of the Edge of Destruction, where it takes the premise and it goes in a different direction. A reimagining is where you take a story and you kind of go in a different direction with it, but you still have the premise of that story. Edge of Destruction, if you look closely, it's very similar to Midnight. Midnight feels like it's a reimagining, a variation of what Edge of Destruction already was giving us. It really was. So, and again, there are other stories where I just feel like, okay, it's similar to ideas in classic Who. I'm not going to hold it against it. Oh yes, and Smile. Smile is very much heavily inspired by the Happiness Patrol. So I just don't hold it against, if you're going to not hold it against those stories, then I'm not going to hold it against 42. I'm just not. I just disagree with you there. I like 42. I don't know why I get so much hate. Then you have The Hungry Earth and Cold Blood. Again, a story that people say is very similar to the Silurians. Well, as I said before, it is very similar to the Silurians, but I also think it might be similar to Frontios, with the idea of the Earth being hungry and pulling people down. I feel like it would be. But again, I don't hold it against it. I still overall enjoy Hungry Earth and Cold Blood. I like the pacing. I'm overall fine with it. I admit the first half is better than the second half, but still, I overall do enjoy it. Then we get to... I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'm forgetting before I go to Dinosaurs on a Spaceship and The Power of Three. Now, I admit those stories are not perfect. I really do. But I like the idea of Brian, Roy's father, and there are things about them that I do very much like. I like that Dinosaurs on a Spaceship is a fun kid romp. It's a fun story for kids. And there's a child in me that's still alive. In Power of Three, it should have been a two-parter. It was not. But I like a lot of it. I just don't like the last 10 or 15 minutes of it. But I do like the pacing of The Power of Three overall. So yes, there are those stories. There's probably other stories I'm missing, but of course, because the Chris Chibnall's track record of stories, he's never written the best stories. But hear me out. Maybe that might be in his favor, that he did not write the best stories. Because here's the problem with Moffat. Moffat wrote easily some of the best stories in New Who. When it came to the first 4 years of New Who. The Empty Child, Dr. Dances, is just pure genius. And then we have The Girl in the Fireplace. That is, I know some people hate that story. It's no. Objectively speaking, it's a great story. Then there are those who have Blink, which is a phenomenal story. It's overrated, I grant you, but it's still phenomenal. Then you have Silence in the Library two-parter, and that is awesome too. He wrote some of the best stories of New Who. So naturally, when he got to his era, we all thought he was going to give us the best every single time. That, I think, led to his undoing somewhat. Because when you write such great stories, and then he wrote great stories again in Series 5, here's what happens to us as a fan base. That window of perfection gets narrower and narrower and narrower. Literally, when you write something and you write such good stuff repeatedly, people have such a high standard on you. They place such a high standard on the things you write that it's going to be hard, literally hard, for you to keep on holding up and keep holding up that idea, that standard. The window gets smaller and smaller of that window of perfection that you can hit. And people will not forgive you when you do not hit that window. That's why when I began to write Doctor Who fan fiction, and I did my best to finally get BBC to read my books, when they rejected me eventually, not rejected me, I never even got a chance to even submit my books. I used to feel very bad about this, until I realized actually it may be a good thing, because I'm writing in my own turf and my own terrain. As a result, I do what I want to do, when I want to do it, and how I wish to do it. There is no standard being placed on me. So for the longest time, I was upset by it, that I would never get the chance to write for Doctor Who, the novel BBC book section. But then over time, even though I still have the dream of one day being a BBC novel writer, I'm actually happy where I'm at now, because I don't have that window being placed on me of, you gotta keep getting better and better and better than you have before. If you have that standard placed on you, very soon you are going to run out of steam, and that window, you are not going to hit it anymore. As a fan fiction writer, I am the lowest of the low. Literally, we are the lowest of the low. And because we are the lowest of the low, that window of what we can write is so wide. It's easy to hit it. But Moffat, that window got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And Moffat, I keep trying to hit it. When you try and hit that window, you keep trying to shoot for it, you are going to get worse over time and not better. That's just what happens when you have that pressure over your shoulders. It's just so, it's so very, very painful. So, that is why I firmly believe, actually, that maybe it might be in Chibnall's favor that he never had the best stories for the seasons he was working, because it puts him in a place where he is a wider window. Or maybe I'm wrong, and maybe, it turns out he sucked. He's going to suck as a head writer, and we're going to get more crap coming our way. There's always that possibility. Who knows? But I'm willing to reserve judgment until he gets that first story. The only time I'm going to call him out on copying and plagiarizing possibly is if he were to have stories or take concepts that were not from classic Who before or not from really popular fiction. I've said before, Turn Left, my God, Turn Left, the story, whether you love it or not, it has been taken from other stories. It's not only, an amalgamation of probably ideas of, classic films, it might be taken from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which I've been given evidence it probably had been, and had been used in Star Trek many times. Turn Left is a prime example of a story. I don't hold it against it for not being original, because other ideas or other movies or TV shows or films did it. Because it's a popular idea that's in the public domain. The only time I will call Chris Chibnall out for being a copycat and the worst of his kind, if he takes from things like fan fiction, where fans write fan fiction online and they post things on their website, and he takes that and he copies it and gives no credit to the original. That's when I say Chibnall is bad. When he takes other ideas and the ideas are not popular ideas. These are people who are unknown people who deserve to be seen, and he takes from them and he copies what they do. That, and only that, is when I call it plagiarism. Then and only then. Up until time, it's just a homage. And that's my feelings of Chris Chibnall. Even though he's not written the best stories of New Who, I am willing to give him a chance and see what he gives me. I'm willing to view his era for what it is when it does come. If it's good, I'm going to accept it. If it's bad, I'm going to call him out on it. Yet, if he does take from classic Who, I understand. I'm not going to call him a copycat. I call it a homage. Because at this point, they have done many homages to classic Who when it comes to episodes. Only when he takes from, again, fan fiction or other ideas that are not popular, and then he does not give credit to it, then and only then will I call him out for being a plagiarist. That's my feelings of Chris Chibnall. I'll see how he is when he does come. Until then, it's all up in the air. And I'm only going to judge it when everything lands. So guys, what are your thoughts about Chris Chibnall's, his time of his, future in the show of Doctor Who of Series 11? Or what about his past? What do you think about his stories up until now? What are your thoughts and feelings on him? I am willing to listen to them, and I am willing to respect you even if you disagree with me. Guys, thank you so very much for listening, and I am the Philadelphia Whovian. I hope to see you guys again so very, very soon. Peace out, guys.